In the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA096.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Boom. Taylor, we are back. How are you doing today?
Good. Have you refilled your sippy cup of wine?
It's yeah. I'm pretty proud of it.
Good for you.
How's your vino consumption going?
Good. I have this glass 'cause I couldn't find a red wine glass, and I actually really wanted one, so I had to find this one. I have a lot of glassware, like kind of a problem with. I love going to their stores and buying dishes. I have so many dishes.
It's not a bad problem.
Okay, as long as I continue to have places to put it, I'm not piling up dishes on the floor.
You
I
do
think it'll
have
be
this
okay.
one really fun looking crystal that you used one night where it was had little spiky things sticking out of it
Mm-hmm.
all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
You have a good dishware taste.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, cool. Well, hello, friends. Welcome to Doomed to Fail. We are the podcast that brings you history's most notorious disasters and epic failures. And I am Taylor, joined by Fars.
And we are going into a Taylor story today.
I have a fun one that I heard about. Wait, let me find my rating. I'll tell you how I heard about it. So I listened to another podcast about this, which was okay, and an article, and I'll tell you what those are. I'll put them in the notes. But I heard this story in the Niagara book that I read for last week, and they mentioned it kind of just as passing, and I was like, whoa, what is that about? So I looked it up, and there's a book about it. I didn't get a chance to read, but I got other stuff from the internet as well. So I know we talked about con men before. You talked about Ponzi.
Oh yeah.
But I'm going to talk about one of the biggest con men in history, Gregor MacGregor. Have you heard of him?
No, that doesn't even sound like a real name.
Gregor MacGregor. He was, of course, from
Japanese. He was
yeah.
from Korea.
He was Scottish, and yeah, Gregor MacGregor was Scottish. He was, and I'm going to tell you what he did. It's wild. I'm not even going to give you any hints. I'm just going to tell you. So he was born on December 24th, 1786, in Stirlingshire, Scotland, which sounds adorable,
It sounds like where Frodo and Samwise would play.
right? And it's cute. It's also the ancestral home of Glengyle on the north shore of Loch Katrine. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds even cooler. And there's a big castle there. There were some William Wallace battles there and near there. So it's very Scottish, very old, very pretty. And his dad was a sea captain for the East India Company, because of course he was. So he was, making money, going back and forth, colonizing. And they were from the clan MacGregor, which is also really fun to be he's part of this clan, the MacGregor clan. They go back to the ninth century. The clan MacGregor motto is "Royal is my race," which is intense, but fine.
Hardcore people.
A couple hundred years before our Gregor was born, there was a thing with religion, and I think potentially Catholicism and Protestantism, like there always is up in those parts. And the MacGregors stopped being allowed to exist. So in an act of parliament in 1617, they said, quote, "It was ordained that the name of MacGregor should be altogether abolished, and that the whole persons of that clan should renounce their name and take them some other name, and that they nor none of their posterity should call themselves Gregor or MacGregor under the pain of death." So that's super intense. And then takes hundreds of years for them to be able to say that they're MacGregors again for a very complicated, very Scottish reason that I don't really understand.
So it's interesting because my first thought originally went to, oh, this is like if you were to get canceled in our culture, except in this case, you'd be killed.
I cancel you and your family forever. Yeah,
Intense.
exactly. So there's a couple other people in his family who are famous. There is Rob Roy MacGregor, which is so hard to say for me. Rob Roy. That goes back to
Probably.
not being able to say my R's, but you know the Rob Roy because it is
A drink.
it's a cocktail. Yes, correct. A Rob Roy is a Manhattan essentially, but with scotch instead of whiskey. And It was invented in 1894 in the Waldorf Astoria in Manhattan, and it was named because there was a operetta about Rob Roy, the person, that was premiering that night, and the bartender was like, "Let me switch out this whiskey for scotch in honor of Rob Roy." So that's what that is. And Rob Roy was like a Scottish hero, and he became sort of like a folk legend hero person, just like a very brave Scotsman who was fighting all around for freedom,
Thank you,
you
Taylor,
know.
for that very robust recap of Scottish history.
You are welcome. So that's fun. But by the time our Gregor MacGregor is around, he's going to use his clan name because his grandpa, who was also named Gregor MacGregor, aka the beautiful Gregor MacGregor, was high up in the British Army and he got it back, which I love the idea of an army guy's name being like the beautiful, you
You know
know?
what? My whole thought, Taylor, as you've been talking, since I was like a kid, since like my first year in college, I was like into the UFC fighting
Hmm.
league, and the biggest celebrity that came out of the UFC was Conor McGregor, which I
Oh
think most people have
yeah.
heard of. And when you've been talking this whole time, I was thinking about him, and then also going to the fact that he literally just got convicted of like sexual assault. Like how, but also I was like confused. I was like, his name's McGregor, but he's Irish. But I was like, well, yeah, but people can move across lines. So he was probably
Yeah.
Scottish, and then maybe his family left Scotland to go to Ireland to
Or
like
like have
escape
more McGregors, you know?
or to have more McGregors. But then also you're like, and then this guy called himself the Beautiful, and I was like, yeah, that's something that I could see like a very weird fighter saying about themselves, like
I
trying to
can
make
see Conor
themselves.
McGregor saying that. Yes, that man should be in prison, most likely.
I would I would agree with that.
Yes, for not
For
only
like
one
50
thing.
reasons, actually. Not even,
Yes,
you know what's
for
funny
many
is
reasons.
the sexual assault part is the recent thing that happened. We also
Exactly.
forget the fact that he assaulted and punched a fucking 80-year-old man in the face in his bar, and then
Yeah.
also threw something in the window of a van carrying all UFC fighters who have nothing to do with any of the. Anyways, whatever.
Did you
I'm
see
going
when
on a
he
side.
punched that mascot and like
And he
really hurt him?
also clean the clock off some poor, probably 43-year-old divorcee with like his kids who he gets custody of once every 3 months for like a $40,000 a year job. Like he's not a good guy.
Yes.
I do appreciate what he did for the UFC. I think he was a great fighter at that time, but he's kind of a scumbag now.
Yes, he should be in jail.
Anyways,
Um,
get back to your McGregor.
cool. He could be related to this McGregor because this McGregor's also not that great.
Okay,
So
got it.
we'll get to that. Oh, this is my aside in that is not as funny anymore because yours was makes more sense. But I was watching Independence Day the other day, and there's a guy named Adam Baldwin who's a distant cousin of the other Baldwins who plays Major Mitchell, who's like one of the top people who's like in Area 50, wait, Area 41, Area 52, 51, 51, whatever, where the aliens are.
It's 51.
Oh my God, that was really hard for me for no reason.
Aren't you lived in Nevada for like
No,
20
I know.
years?
I don't know. I lost it. But that man, Adam Baldwin, the actor, was very handsome, and I was like distracted by his handsomeness. So like I get that there's like handsome people in the army. He's an actor,
So
whatever.
he's
That was
like
my aside.
he's a residual Alec Baldwin. Like, what is he
Yeah,
again?
he's like a second cousin of the other Baldwins, but he's more handsome.
Dude, that's how for the younger audience, that's how fucking incredible Alec Baldwin was when Taylor and I were kids. That these like weird offsprings of the Baldwin group who like even they are famous now for no reason other than they're his relative.
That's not true. I just said he was very handsome, like distractingly so.
He married Kim Basinger when Kim Basinger was the the peak of the
Absolutely.
peak.
No, I totally. Batman, I get it. I get it. Anyway, back to this story.
So many side
You get it.
sidetracks.
So our Gregor may not have gone to university. He said he did, but he can't be trusted, so who knows? But he did join the army. So this is the tail end of my favorite time, which is the Enlightenment. And the Napoleonic Wars are just starting, and Gregor joins the army. He's 16, and his family buys him the rank of ensign. So it sounds like you have to pay to get any sort of rank at all when you get in, or you're just going to be like a grunt, like a nothing in the army. So in 1872, the word ensign gets changed to second lieutenant, so you can kind of like think about that, but that's also the lowest rank you can get. But he had to pay to start at a rank rather than start at like the very beginning. He quickly gets promoted. He becomes a lieutenant for real, and he goes down to Gibraltar. He's going to spend a lot of time in like the coast of Spain, Gibraltar, Portugal area during
So
his
he's going to
time.
be off the coast of the country known as Gibraltar.
Yes, you know where Gibraltar is, the
Thank
Rock of
you.
Gibraltar. Yes.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So in 1805, he marries a woman named Maria Bowater, and she's pretty rich, and they live in her aunt's house in London. So like that's good. He's got like a good deal going on. 2 months later, he joins his group is called the 57th Foot, which is like foot, I don't know, 57th group. They're called the Foot, and they're in Gibraltar. And he buys the rank of captain for 900 pounds. And so I assume that's 1805 money. Otherwise, everyone would do that because they'd be like, okay, that seems easy. But in our money, it's roughly 80,000 to 90,000 pounds in today's money that he paid to move up to the rank of captain. So he is back in the 57th foot. They're up and down the coast of Portugal to Gibraltar. He ends up in a fight with other people in his division, and he gets kicked out, but they give him his money back, which I was surprised by. I feel like they
I wonder
wouldn't
how he did
necessarily do
that.
that.
I
Yeah.
doubt that that's like in a contract.
Right? Yeah, I don't either. But later, like a couple weeks later, the 57th is in like a really big battle and they do really, really well. And they get called the diehards. And it's gonna be a thing where you're gonna be able to say, like, oh yeah, I was part of the 57th foot, the diehards. And people will be like, you are so brave. That is so great. So he just said that he was there during that battle, even though he had left a few weeks before.
I mean, Taylor, I would do that.
Yeah,
There's no internet. Nobody knows
right.
anything. Who gives a shit?
I mean, a lot of this is no internet. Yes, exactly. So Gregor and Maria head back to Edinburgh. He's only 23 when he's like out of the army for real, but he still likes to wear like his full dress uniform. He's really into making everybody, even when he's in the army, wear all their medals and everything. You have to be like fully dressed every time you go out. And he makes people call him Colonel, even though he's not a colonel. And he has this beautiful carriage, and he's like, I'm super important. And he like, drives around Edinburgh, but people don't buy it. They don't like it. So they move. They move back to London because he wasn't getting as popular as he wanted to be in Edinburgh by like being fancy. So in
Was his
London,
wife like constantly just rolling her eyes, being like, "What if this guy is?"
I mean, I imagine I can't find really a lot about her, but I feel like probably. So they move back to London and he calls himself a baron, which is like also not true. And he told people in London that he was part of the MacGregor clan leadership, which is also not true. So Maria, I couldn't find out how, but she dies in December 1811. So now he's widowed and it's bad because they were living off of her money. And they don't have kids. They haven't been together that long, so he can't like go to her family and be like, "Great, can you support me forever now?" They'd be like, "Absolutely not. Like, who are you? Who cares?" And he didn't want to go home, and he couldn't really go back to the military because he had left in like a weird way because he got in a fight with someone. So he was like not sure what to do next. So he decides to take the money that he has, his little bit of money from inheritances, and he sails to the Americas. And he stops in Kingston, Jamaica, but no one gives him a job there. Like they also are not impressed by his like not no zero accomplishments. And so he goes to Venezuela. And so there's a dude in Venezuela who is fighting the Spanish, because the Spanish are have control of it at the moment. There's a man named General Francisco de Miranda. Have you heard of him?
It sounds pretty familiar.
I really feel like I haven't, and I wish I knew more, but he's a Venezuelan who fought in the American, French, and Spanish revolutions. Like,
This guy, he
that's
couldn't
pretty
find a
cool.
revolution that he didn't want to be a part of.
100%. I wish I knew more. I might talk about him later. That's another story, but that was so interesting. And he's pulling Venezuela away from Spanish rule with the help of the English, which is wild to me because it's like the early 1800s and the Revolutionary War is like 40 years ago, 50 years ago. So he's like A, older, and B, like now he wants the English to help him stop colonization.
Hey, makes sense. I
Whatever.
mean, it's the whole the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah,
Like,
totally. So Gregor ends up working for him, and he says, "Oh, call me sir." People like assume that that's actually like an earned title, but it's not. But he says that anyway. And he marries a woman named Josefa um, Lovera, and she is a cousin of Simone Bolivar. So he's now like in with the people who are doing this revolution in Venezuela. First campaign they do fails and they all flee to Curacao. And that's not the end of it. There's more battles. He fights alongside Bolivar in New Granada, which is like Colombia area, and he goes to Venezuela and moves troops. And he does this like thing where for a whole month he takes these troops from one side of Venezuela to the other, and they're fighting people. They're fighting the Spanish. They're doing all these like little mini battles, and it is legitimately very brave that he did this. And when he was done, Bolivar said, quote, "The retreat which you had the honor to conduct is, in my opinion, superior to the conquest of an empire. Please accept my congratulations for the prodigious services you have rendered my country." So, like, that's good. They said that the people down there called Mac MacGregor the Xenophon of the Americas because he was like a great general, and he did a really good job, legitimately, in this one thing.
All right. Well, he might not have been full shit after all.
Yeah. Well, so now he's like, I can do anything. So he goes to find something else that the Spanish own that he can try to take back or take. And guess what he finds?
The Fountain of Youth.
Close. He finds Florida.
That is
So
actually pretty close.
I think the Fountain of Youth was in Florida, or supposed to be, right? Or no?
So my understanding of it was it's in Puerto Rico at Ponce de
Oh.
Leon's mansion,
Mm.
but I could be wrong.
No, that might be right because I do think that we have a kid's book about a turtle and a frog who try to find it. So he decides to liberate Florida from Spain. And they don't necessarily care or want this, but he's going in to do it anyway. He gets money and men so he can like go back to England, to Scotland, and get people to like come on board, loan him money, do all these things. And he goes to Amelia Island, which is an island that's very beautiful, is in the northeast of Florida, kind of by Jacksonville. And the men that he recruits are mostly from Georgia and South Carolina. And on June 29th, 1817, he says the words, "I shall sleep either in hell or Amelia tonight," and like charges on Amelia Island, like brings his ships and they're like going to take it over. And people didn't really care. They were like, okay, either they left or they stayed. Like it didn't really matter. There was no fighting. Like no one, not even a single shot was fired. Nothing really happened. When he got there, he put down a flag, and the flag is like white with a green cross, just like an up and down, like a plus sign all the way across. And he declared himself in charge of the Republic of Florida's. So he was like, he wasn't really taking it over for any other country. He was like, I am in charge of this area now. And it started with Amelia Island. He tried to attack mainland Florida, but some of his troops died. And the people who were in his troops, were in his army, he was paying with Amelia dollars, which were not real dollars. They're things he had just printed and was like, this is going to be worth something once we have this Republic of Florida and have all this stuff going. So he was paying them with Amelia dollars. And they were pissed and a lot of people left. And he ended up kind of sneaking off of Amelia Island without telling anybody and leaving. And when he left, he went back down to the Bahamas and he was trying to get things engraved that said, "Amelia, I came, I saw, I conquered," and "Liberty for the Floridas under the leadership of MacGregor." But nothing ever had really happened. They really were only there for 3 months. And then the US took it back because they were just kind of holding this island for no reason. And the US took it back and they held it for Spain until the Florida Purchase. So that kind of failed and was weird.
So I will say that I'm gonna sound nuts saying this, but that doesn't sound crazy to me. If isn't that what everybody does? It's crazy because he failed, but isn't that what everybody does? You take over an area and they're like, "This is money now. It's got my face on it, not your face. Go
No,
fuck
that's
yourself."
that
Like,
part is true. And I actually am going to bring that up later that like yeah, he made up money, but like so did we. Money was made
right?
up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's all
no, that
fake.
that part's totally true. But the part that is weird is that he did it like for himself for no reason. Like not like on behalf of Scotland. He was like, I'm in charge now.
Right, right.
And then we're going to invade all of Florida on behalf of this and start this new thing. It's going to be the Republic of Florida. It's not connected to any European country,
Yeah,
right?
I
It's just
kind
like
of
its
admire.
own thing.
I kind of
So
admire the tenacity.
fair, fair. So Josefa, his wife, gave birth to their first child in the Bahamas on November 9th, 1817. And if you were a Scottish man named Gregor MacGregor and you had a baby whose family spoke Spanish, what would you name your son?
I don't know. I can't.
Gregorio.
Oh yeah, okay. I was
So it's
like,
Gregorio
it's like
MacGregor.
I couldn't imagine two more different things than Scottish and Spanish. You know?
No, totally, totally. But his son was named Gregorio MacGregor, which I think is hilarious. And they're living in the Bahamas, and then they kind of skip town because things aren't really working out, and they go back to London. In London, he's involved in a couple schemes to take over places like New Granada, which is, like I said, it turns into Colombia. And I'm not even sure who's taking it over for. Like he gets people to give him money, to like give him loans, to promise him land and all these things, but nothing really happens. Like no one goes anywhere. He doesn't really own any land in South America. And people kind of get embarrassed because they give him their money and then it disappears. So it's like your friend who has like a new startup every week, and finally you're like, I can't give you any money anymore. Like this is embarrassing, you know?
Yeah.
And eventually he's wanted for piracy because he stole a boat and named it L. McGregor, among other things, which made me laugh also. So he decides to do his next thing, and his next thing is like the big bad thing that he does if you Google him. So in April 1820, he's back in South America. He's in the Mosquito Coast, and that's like the east coast of South America. There are a shit ton of mosquitoes there. But it's not named after that. It's named after the local Mosquito Nation, spelled Miskito, not spelled that way, but like that's the way one way to spell it. On April 29th, 1820, there was a man named George Frederick Augustus, and he's like a native leader from the Mosquito Nation, and but he also is like involved in these dealings with the UK and Spain and all these things. So he signs a document granting MacGregor and his heirs 8 million acres of this mosquito coastline, which is a lot, but he's like, sure, like you can have this land for you and your heirs. The reason that he gave it to him, it sounds like, is because the land was pretty terrible. So that land on the east coast of South America, what else was there? Do you remember what else famous was there where they weren't able to grow anything?
No.
Jonestown. Because I think it's the same land. Do you
Oh
remember how they
my
went?
God.
Yeah. Remember how they went to Jonestown and they were like, oh, like he was like, oh, everything is going to, we're gonna be able to grow all this food. It's gonna be great. And they couldn't grow anything. Like you
Yes.
can't grow anything there.
Yes.
So it's a very similar, like very uninhabitable. Also, just I was looking up exactly where Jonestown is because it's on the east coast of Guyana and then like Venezuela's like right above it. But the Jonestown settlement has 48 Google reviews and 3.6 stars.
Do you,
And they're very sassy. So Gregor takes this 8,000 acres and names it Poyais. Poyais. I'm going to say it Poyais like it's French. He names it Poyais. And he calls himself the Cazique of Poyais. And the Cazique is like a princely word. So he's like, I'm in charge of this area. I'm the Cazique of Poyais. So he goes back to, so that was in April 1820. He goes back to Europe and says he wants people to come to be with the Cazique in Poyais. He calls them Poyers. He says that like there is, he is the Cazique and father of this area, and he wants people to start to move there. So in the meantime, a man named Rafter had written a book about what a fool Gregor MacGregor was because of the other things that he had done when he had done like these other weird schemes and like was kind of a pirate and like all those things. Not a pirate, but like in trouble for piracy. And no one really paid attention to that book. It should have been more of a warning for what was to come, but it ended up not being that. So he gets to London and he wants to raise money for his new land. And now people like him because now he's exotic. Now he's not just like the Scottish dude who's like trying to get people to like him. He's a Cazique Poyet and he has this beautiful wife. And they have another baby and they name her Gregoria. You know,
Nice.
it's like her third name. It's Josefa Anna Gregoria, but hilarious. And even though we know that there's nothing in Poye, we know it's not a real thing. It's like it is land that he can bring people to, but we know there's nothing there. But he tells people that there's a lot there and that it's great. He says there's land, there are people, there's a parliament, there are banks, there are money. Here's the money. I have it printed. You can have it. There's a coat of arms. Guess what animal is on the coat of arms?
It's gotta be a lizard.
No, it's not a real animal. It's like a,
Unicorn.
yeah, it's a unicorn.
Are you serious?
Yes. It's two unicorns holding up that green
Can
check
you
flag that
buy
he
this
made.
money? How expensive is this money? What's the money called?
It's called Poyais dollars.
How do you spell Poyais?
Poy, oh my God, I lost it. Poyias. I don't know if any exist still. But wait, don't Google it because you might know what happens. So just wait.
Okay.
So, of course, there's a unicorn. It's all printed and it looks really nice. So he says there's several offices in like Edinburgh and London, other cities that are selling land grants in Poyais. So you're like, I'm going to give all my money to this to get like, 1,000 acres in Poyais. The land is so lush and amazing. People get really, really excited. Waterloo had just happened, so the Napoleonic Wars are over. So people are like looking for something else. Like everything has been crazy. They're really excited to go. In 1822, there's a 355-page book called The Sketch of the Mosquito Shore, including the territory of Poyais, that's supposed to talk about how great it is. It has illustrations, it has facts. It's written by a man named Captain Thomas Strangeways, who's obviously not a real person.
I kind of love this guy. I
And
want to be
he's
his friend.
And so in the book, Captain Strangeways is like, everything is so great. Did we tell you? There's a capital city called St. Joseph. It has mansions and boulevards and an opera house and a palace. And the natives there, they love England. They're really excited to work with us. They like absolutely love us. So we're
That,
super excited. They're super excited for us to be
that
there.
should have been everybody's tell that he's lying.
Oh, no, wait, there's one more thing. Guess what the rivers have in them?
Champagne.
Gold.
Yeah.
So this is the place. This is the place to go. So he gets gold, he gets loans, he gets bonds. He's gonna make a lot of money. And people are like, fuck yeah, let's go. So he's paid people to be in the military. There is a cobbler, there are doctors, there are bankers. Most of the people are Scottish, but there's a lot of people ready to go. They're like, we're in. The first 50 people leave from London on September 10th, 1822. Before they leave, they exchange their real pounds for Poyet dollars, like on the shore. So they're basically like giving him all of the real money, and he's giving them all of this fake money.
Taylor,
And
can I ask,
again,
like, I
okay,
know that like you're more socially um empathetic than I am, but you can blame the guy Taylor, if I showed up in Joshua Tree with Fars bucks and then I fooled a bunch of your neighbors into like trading the equity in their homes for Fars bucks, could you even be mad at me? Like, could you even
I have a couple of really big points. Like, yeah, it's so interesting because like A, I just wrote, we know that money is fake. So there's that. There is all of this stuff happening. People are legitimately coming to the Americas to like colonize and like live their lives. So, like that stuff's happening. But also like this week, that Hawktaw girl did her fake coin and people lost tons of money. So there are
that's
famous
not
people
okay. So
right
like
now doing that.
so that literally happens with every coin. Like
But
somebody
isn't how
launches it
but how
and people
different is that
buy
than
it and
this?
then huh?
Isn't that just like people are always going to try to like do the next get rich quick scheme
I
or like
mean,
want to believe you? Like
so here's the thing.
I see like four people getting rich from going to the Americas, and I see four people who are rich from crypto, and like, couldn't that be me?
I would buy the Hawk Tuah meme coin before I would buy Fars bucks, and my name is Fars. Like that's all I'm saying.
Totally, but you wouldn't do that now. You would do a Fars meme coin. You know, that's like
Yes.
the equivalent of this. The Poyet dollars were produced by the Bank of Scotland's official printer. So like they looked real. Like they were real. They weren't not real as far as money goes.
The world was on a gold standard. Money was backed by gold. It's fucking not
But
real.
there's gold in the river,
You
Fars.
gotta
Once you
fish
get
it out.
there,
You gotta fish it
there's
out
gotta be
first.
just
You
get like a
gotta get the
pan,
gold out.
get some wellies, get the gold, you'll be fine. So this is
Now,
the
now you're
beginning.
starting to talk like somebody that worked for a hedge fund.
Fair. So September 1822. By the end of 1823, the Poyais dollars have totally crashed, which like we knew they would, but like they had a little bit of market value because you could trade them for your regular money because you thought you were going to Poyais, but now you're not. So of course that's going to happen. So those first 50 people off in September. 200 more people left on January 22nd, 1823 from London. There were women and children on board. They sailed free because they're going to this land of opportunity. So that was like even more reason to go. They sang songs and hoisted the flag and they were like, we're going to Poyais. They were like, just could not have been more excited. They were going to the New World. So when they got there, guess what they found? There was nothing. They got off the boat and they were like, where is the palace? Where are the boulevards? Where is the welcome party that was supposed to come? They couldn't believe that they were being duped. They were like, something must be wrong with like where we landed. Something must be wrong with like the information that they had sent to like the people who in charge of the government. Like, there's no way that Gregor MacGregor duped us. And then they had doctors and they had provisions. They could have technically been there for a while, but I'm going to read another quote from the Poyais immigrants' situation as described by Alfred Hasbrouck in 1927. I think this is in a book, but this author says, quote, disease seized upon them and spread rapidly. Lack of proper food and water and failure to take the requisite sanitary precautions brought on intermittent fever and dysentery. Whole families were ill. Most of the sufferers lay on the ground without other protection from the sun and rain than a few leaves and branches thrown across some sticks. Many were so weak as to be unable to crawl to the woods for the common offices of nature. The stench arising from the filth they were in was unendurable. It was bad. And
I'm not even gonna make fun of them because that actually must be awful if you think you're doing something amazing for your family lineage.
yeah,
Because it's like a lot of people who left for America in like the 1920s and they just happened to guess right. But like it was
yeah,
always a guess. Like you're always rolling the dice.
exactly. So the poor cobbler died by suicide because he was like, nope, no one here needs shoes. It's terrible. And eventually people were going out and trying to find help, trying to figure out what to do because people were just like dying. And they learned that Poyais never existed and that the even the title of Cazique was made up. So the person who had given him the land was like, I never made him ruler or like did all these things. Like I never said he could, I just said he could like come here if he wanted to. So by the time that word got back to England that this was a scam, five more ships were already on their way. And they got intercepted somehow and were told to turn back. Of the 250 people who went on the first two ships, 180 of them died, and some of them stayed in the Americas, but about less than 50 went back to Britain.
I don't know, man, like it almost worked. Like it almost worked. Like, I mean, that's how you build a civilization. You can't tell people, let's go live on the Mosquito Coast for nothing. It's like you gotta sell them a vision, and all of a sudden you're there, and you're like, I have no choice but to make it work.
That's true, but there were a lot of lies involved, like the palace and the golds. Well, the gold, they always said that, but
Didn't
like,
the fucking Pilgrims do the same thing? Like the Mayflower and all that? Like, wasn't that all a bunch of bullshit?
yeah, I think so. Well, I know they
But it
left because they were
worked.
boring, and then like, yeah, it worked, but like all those people died in Jamestown. Remember? They ate each other.
We are living in this country, Taylor. Like the country works.
Yeah, but like a bunch of people. I mean, it was hard. But this was like very specifically a lie, and he
I
very
bet if they
specifically
hadn't turned those boats around, we'd
maybe
be
they could have
telling
figured
it.
it out.
We'd be singing a different tune. All those people would have found a way to make it work. I bet.
You know, I think you might be right.
Thank you. Wow, that's the first time you've ever said that to me
That's
in
not the first time I've ever
13
said that.
in
But
24 years.
but I but I no, that does make sense. They maybe they could have made it work if there were like 1,000 people rather than just 250. Because you're right, a lot of them would have died anyway, but then some of them would have had to figure something out.
Yeah, if
But
there's like
also like
20 people, the cobbler has nothing to trade his cobbling for because how many fucking shoes can you sell a year to 20 people? You sell
yeah.
20 shoes once every 10 years.
Well, I think you're also repairing shoes.
Oh, I don't know how it works. I've never been to a cobbler. Yeah, that's a good
I've been
point.
to a cobbler many times and they repair my shoes. I've never bought shoes from a cobbler, but there's one here in town anyway. Um, but by the time that the couple people got back, they got back in November. They left in January. They got back in November, and Gregor had gone. He had fled to France. People were like, there's still people are still like, it's not his fault. It's not his fault. But he had like taken their money and let them go to a place where he knew that there was nothing. In 1825, he ran away and he was hiding in the French countryside. There were other people involved. It wasn't like just him, and him and two other people were arrested and sent to prison in France. And he said, what did he say? He said that he was held prisoner for reasons he wasn't aware. He was suffering as one of the founders of independence in the New World. So he was like saying what you're saying, like everybody does it this way. Like why am I the person who's being called out for this? And he got tried for this being a crime, but he got off. He was acquitted and then they did it again and he was not guilty. So it was just like he was not guilty. And he went back to the UK and he kept doing it. He kept selling land in Poyais, even though Poyais was nothing. And he sold land and bonds and got loans from banks. And he tried again for like years and years to do this. Finally, at one point, Josefina, his wife, dies. And then somewhere in there, two of their kids had died as well. Wait, I feel like her name is not Josefina now that I say that. But his wife dies and his Josefa was her name. And his wife dies, some of his kids are dead, so he goes back to Venezuela where he had started his journeys. And in 1839, they made him a citizen and gave him a rank in the military so that he got a pension. And he died in Caracas on December 4th, 1845, with full honors. And nothing was mentioned at his funeral about any of his schemes or any of that. And he is buried there, and the MacGregor clan doesn't mention him at all in like their burial grounds in Scotland. And the part of Honduras is where Poyais was that was, cut out to be Poyais is still uninhabited today because it's not a place where you can live,
What
and it was
part
never
of
going to be.
what country is it a part of?
Honduras.
You know what? I kind of take back what I said earlier. Do you want to know which one?
Which part?
So I think the difference is I think that the American settlers were doing this because of ideological reasons of disagreements with how taxation worked with, or not the taxation, like how the monarchy worked in England. So it was like a very like we want to create a different structure of
I don't think that's
societal
true.
living.
No, I think it's about money.
You think that the pilgrims moved here because they're trying to get rich.
Yes. I think that they wouldn't.
Then you got to defend it. You got to defend it. You can't just say it. Then you got to do a. Oh, do you have an answer or?
Well, kind of. I feel like they would have been happy to get rich. Like they were coming here thinking that like they if they got here and it was made of. But I think I think a big part of it was that, and then they're able to convince like family people and other folks who would not necessarily leave their town that they're going for this religious reason when really they're going to be workers in this new world and create money.
Taylor, can I ask you a question? If
Uh-huh.
I was worth like $80 billion,
Hmm.
right? But I lived on the moon. Does it can matter that I have $80 billion?
Can you get Amazon deliveries up there? Probably. I'm gonna say yes. Then
Oh my God. But the distinction I was drawing in my mind was that this guy kept selling this shit afterwards, and that puts him in a different category of like fraud embezzlement
yeah.
versus like I'm doing this because of my own spiritual beliefs or
Right.
ideological
There's nothing
differences.
ideological behind it.
Right.
It wasn't like I didn't even see any mention of God in like the whole thing. Um, I did go to a thrift store and I bought some books and I did buy one on Cotton Mather, which I was very excited about. So I'll keep it posted.
The stories are always going to intertwine.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that's fun. So,
Isn't
so
that
by the
fun?
way, I looked it up. So the McGregor clan, which is like a weird way to call your family, but Conor McGregor is part of this McGregor clan. So is Ewan McGregor.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So you got Now, well, two currently famous, and I guess four total famous because we can count
Yeah,
this guy and Rob
Rob
Roy.
Roy. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah,
I we were at a pizza place yesterday, and some bikers came in, like motorcycle guys, and then one guy had his like cut, and it was like the full thing, and he had the name, and I don't even want to say it because we looked them up, and like they have done bad things, but he had his like the name of his thing, and then two other guys like had only like the bottom part of their vest had a patch, so they're definitely like rookies in the
yeah.
motorcycle gang. But they bought a pizza, and the guy bungee corded it to the back of his motorcycle, and they drove away.
Is it Mongols?
No, but I was like, um, that's brave
I
as a
think
way to
once
transport
you
pizza.
join a motorcycle gang where your only job is to cook and distribute meth, yeah, you're gonna take some risks in life, you know?
Yeah, just bungee cord pizza. My last bit is not nothing to do with anything, but last night Miles asked me what the name of the moon was. And this kind of reminds me of like the money conversation that we're having because I was like, well, it's just the moon. But like Saturn's moons have names. But our moon doesn't have a name because we invented the word moon. So our moon is the moon. And then other moons have names. Like planets, our Earth is the Earth, like the dirt. But other planets we give names to. Like, we just made everything up.
I'm gonna spend all night thinking about the moon thing. The other thing doesn't make any sense because planets are a thing, but like,
But
what
like,
is the moon? The
right, what is
moon
the moon?
is the.
The moon.
Why don't we just name it something?
Right, like why don't we name it like Jeffrey or Gregor MacGregor? Like name it something. Why is it called just the one we have? Oh
Is
my God.
oh my god, it's a full Jeffrey tonight.
Anyway, thank you for listening, everyone. I hope you thought that was fun. If you know any other fun cons, and please don't buy any meme coins
Taylor, you can
with
actually
your friends.
buy legitimately. I just found it a Poyasian bond signed by Gregor MacGregor
How much is
for
it?
$1,700.
All right. Well, if it was like $17, I'd buy it. That's fun.
Yeah, it's a fun part of history. That was very fun. That was a very, very fun. I love your lighthearted episodes where it's just like there's a part of me that always loves scam people because it's like good for you, man. Like good for you for fucking like
I'm definitely more empathetic towards him than I was this morning.
it's like good for you for like finding a thing, finding a niche, getting great at it, and then also suckering people into that thing. Like you got to be like kind of smart and talented. It's weird because all these guys
Yeah.
who do this, they could have been like you, a hedge fund manager. Like they could have done something different. You know what I mean? Like they could have. I'm joking. I know you weren't a hedge fund manager,
It's
but like
very kind of you. No, I'm laughing at the idea like this. Oh my God. What a time in my life. Yes. Yeah, I remember being like, this is bad. But whatever. I'm fine. I'm fine.
is it evil the
Um,
way they make money?
I think that it's evil to have such a concentration of money, you know?
But all they're doing is they're taking rich people's money and then moving it into company accounts. What
Hmm.
do they do?
They like, I don't really know. They like
You did for
move it
6 years.
around. Dude, at one point they were like, do you want to learn more about this? And I was like, nah, I'm gonna watch X-Files. It's fine. It turned out fine. I wasn't gonna stay there forever, so whatever.
Yeah,
I
you
had a
chose the right
breakdown.
move.
I
Yeah,
had a
you did.
breakdown. They gave me severance. So it was very nice. Um, cool. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Please tell your friends. We're doomedtofellapod@gmail.com, doomedtofellapod at all the social medias. And if we are on your Wrapped, let us know and I'll mail you a sticker. And we have merch. It still exists out there. It's on our link tree. Buy a t-shirt. Buy a coffee mug. They're cute.
Uh, Great choice. It's Christmas time, and Christmas is when we make our money on this podcast through merch sales.
From
So
the ones
if you
of
want
stuff that
little
we sold
Flo and
last year.
Miles to get the toys they want, you gotta start buying shit.
Great.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Taylor. That was
Thanks,
fun.
Fars.